start and give people time.
Yeah, I want to start and I want to tell you guys thank you for bearing with me and praying for me. I'm excited because I
Gotta stay by the mic.
sorry. I'm excited because I'll have my appointment next week and I'll get my iron. So that's my quick little praise report. I've been battling with my iron for some months here now and I finally have my iron infusion appointment set up for Wednesday. So I'm excited.
Yes. All right. So let me share with y'all something real quick, so y'all can catch the ride of God moving. Right. So um, last week, maybe like Thursday,
Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday of last week, I get a phone call from the boss above my boss. Right. And he was like, it was a random call. It was really out of nowhere. And if I be quite frankly honest,
You still connecting to the Wi-Fi? Back at your Wi-Fi.
if I really be if I really be honest, I was really nervous. Um, and so I get on the call, and my boss says, just so you know, the company is doing some reorganizing and we're kind of redoing some brand stuff. He says, and so because of that, um, we're laying people off. So now I'm probably was ready to freak out for sure. But I had to remember that at this point I've done everything that God has told me to do and I've operated according to what God has required of me, right? Let me tell y'all, while everybody around me was getting laid off, I got promoted.
Mm-hmm.
While everybody
Come
around me,
on.
huh?
I said, come on.
Yeah, while everybody, I'm talking about it's 7 of us on staff and 4 to 5 of us they let go. And I got a promotion with less work, a raise, and an official transition to being remote, back remote again. Like I kid you not, like God was like, I'm already working this thing out, and then let me show you, as if that's not enough, because of what God was doing over there, God has given me the opportunity to create
Yeah.
relationships in rooms that I've never even been in before. You know what I'm saying? I'm sharing that because the key to this is this, just being honest. The key to this for me was making sure that I'm doing everything God tells me I'm supposed to do in spite of everything that was going on around me.
Yeah.
So I'm on calls and people complaining about the new direction we're going with the company. I'm on calls and they're talking about the new software and the new programs that we're using. And all while they're doing all the talking, I'm still saying, okay, but I'm gonna see the positive in this, right? And so my wife was like, be careful what rooms you talk in because you could be speaking in some rooms that you don't know, but they paying attention. I said, okay, say less. And so I kid you not, I'm sitting in those rooms, I'm saying very little, and God literally promoted me. So initially at the company, I was the senior graphic designer. So I touched everything, video, graphics, web, you name it. I touched a little bit of everything. In the promotion, I don't do nothing but video. That's it. I don't touch nothing but video. And to some people, they might not see it, but there's a strategic move here because they moved me to video editing with the hopes of in the next 12 to 18 months promoting me to associate creative director. Now this is all happening in rooms I had nothing to do with. To be honest with you, I was praying to God for more money and more opportunity, but I didn't even think it was coming from where I was. I thought I was on my way out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm sharing that with you guys this morning today, because I want you guys to be encouraged. God is doing something even when you don't see it. God is working things out in your favor, even when you don't even know that there are things that
Worked out.
need to be worked out.
Or you need protection from.
Yeah, I was oblivious. I was clueless. I knew we were reorganizing, but I didn't even think my job was even in any form of jeopardy. So there was never a focus there for me. And so I'm saying that to say to you all, don't let the enemy rob you of the thing God is getting ready to release in your life because the enemy gets you caught up in the negativity of what's going on around you, that you kill the seed that God is trying to bring up before it even gets an opportunity to sprout. Because again, I say to y'all, God is definitely doing something.
Amen.
And so, I mean, we're gonna dive into the discussion today, but I just felt like it was a need to say that, and I wanted to say it at the beginning. That way, when we go back to cut this YouTube video, I can cut the front half off of this. But the reality is this, guys, is God is still in the blessing business. God is still promoting from within the kingdom. God is still doing things. And so we have to remember that even in my discomfort, God is on the move. I was looking at a viewing of a place this morning with my brother and his wife, and while we were out and we're just talking, man, it's something about when people who are on fire for God end up in the same place. The magnitude of flame that lights when we're all sharing and excited about this new move and direction of where God is going with us. But it was something that came out of that I want to share with you before we go into the lesson. And it was revelation as we were all discussing, talking, but it was truth. He says, a seed doesn't have the ability to grow until it's planted. Mm-hmm. And in order to be planted, it's got to be covered. He says, and so understand that in a season of your life you will be covered. And the thing that you need to understand is, are you bored?
No, babe, you stepping on my mic cord and turning it. I was trying to move it with my foot.
The thing about being planted is this, is no one gets to determine how long that season is for. And so one of the things that we were talking about in our discussion is, a bamboo is planted, the seed is planted, and it's 5 years before it starts to grow. But then once it starts to grow, it grows at rapid rate. And so the thing that I think many of us can take from that is that the season in which I feel covered may last a while. It may feel like I've been covered for a while. It may feel like the situations have been stacked up on me for a while. But the reality of the matter is the moment I break ground, the moment I come out of the ground, God has the capacity to offer supernatural advancement, supernatural growth, and scale you to where it is you foresaw yourself being. If you just remember that even in this season of discomfort, God has his hand on it. God is orchestrating it. Amen? All right, we're going to dive into our Devo session. So today's discussion is centered around breaking the family blueprint. Breaking the family blueprint, redefining legacy. Exodus 20:5-6 says, you shall now not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You have to understand that we have the power to break generational cycles and redefine the legacy we leave behind, but it starts with us. Here is the icebreaker question. You ready? What's one thing you've inherited from your family that you'd love to change or break? What's one thing you've inherited from your family that you'd love to change or break? I'm not going to move on to at least one person say something. What's one thing you've inherited from your family that you'd love to change or break? Complacency. Yes. Complacency. I like that one. I can agree with that one for sure. Anybody else?
Oh, I guess it's being in Washington. I could say, I guess sometimes it's being overly too nice. Sometimes we don't stand our ground on overly too nice. Sometimes we don't have a boundary on what we cutting off on, and we allow stuff that we shouldn't allow.
I see attitude. Yeah, I see attitude in there. Justin robbed me of mine because I was gonna say knowing. I feel like sometimes we desire to be good or be nice so often that sometimes we're coddling people God has called us to kind of allow to be corrected. You know what I'm saying? And knowing the seasons and understanding those things. If I was going to be petty, I would say survival mindset. Yes. Yes. Another thing I would say from us, for me, is the ability to listen more than you talk. Right? Understanding that you always may have something to say, but giving people room to say and to express themselves. People don't feel valued when you're talking and not giving them room to be a part of the discussion, right? Or feeling like that you feel like what they think or what they're feeling matters, right?
Yeah, I would say mine would be being a one-man band.
Yeah.
Just trying to do it all by myself. I know what to do. I know how to do it. I've done this, been there before. Being the one person to do everything.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to dive into our discussion questions. Here's another question. It's in A, B, or C. What cycles did you inherit that you want to break? A, dysfunctional communication patterns. B, negative self-beliefs. C, addictive behaviors or unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I'm going to throw a D, other. So A, dysfunctional communication patterns. B, negative self-beliefs. C, addictive behaviors or unhealthy coping mechanisms. Or D, others. A and C. A, B, C. Okay, A and C. Yep. All right. One of the key things that I've learned on this journey, right, of becoming a better form of myself, is that I can't deal with what I won't acknowledge, right? The first key to breaking anything is acknowledging that there's an issue. And for some of us, acknowledging that issue feels like almost like acknowledging weakness. But the reality is we all have areas in our lives that we can work out better, right? Like I think about it like when you go to the gym. You got those areas you love to work out because those areas are your great points. Mm-hmm. Those areas are where you shine the most. But for some people, the struggle is dealing with the areas where I don't look the best, right? You go to the gym and you see those guys, they be swole from the waist up, but from the waist down, they've been skipping leg day, right? Because I like what it feels like when I'm lifting, bench pressing or curling. I like what it does to my mental to know that I'm lifting more weights than I used to. But sometimes, I don't know if you know this, but legs require a lot more working out before you really start seeing results. You know what I mean? And so the reality is in our lives, there's some things that we have to recognize in order to fix. And, some of what you battling, you inherited. And it doesn't make your family horrible. It doesn't make them bad. It just means that there are some things that I picked up from observation, right, that may be in good intention and still not be good for me, And it's crazy because we try not to talk about, we use here the word generational cycles, but in our childhood, we used to say generational curses, right? Things that we inherited that are hard to break. Stuff like, alcoholism, drug addiction, sometimes it's inherited. Because I watched my mother drink or I watched my father smoke. And then before you know it, I started drinking and I started smoking. And then I passed that behavior and that character on to my children. But I want to go a step deeper and a step further and say, but you also need to understand that also in all of that is the manipulation and the plight of the enemy, right? And it's the idea that I know what worked on your mom. I know what worked on your grandmom. I know. And so if I want you, I know how to get you. I just shake the family tree and I find what worked for them. And I begin to implement the attack of using those things on you, right? It's like depression. Depression is inherited sometimes, right? Sometimes I watch my mom be depressed. I watch my dad be depressed. And here's what's crazy. Here's how the enemy tricks us. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Here's how the enemy tricks us is that because it doesn't look like the depression I'm used to seeing, I assume that it's not depression. Because don't want to leave the house, because I don't refuse to be seen, because I'm not showering, or as I used to think, sitting on the couch, eating bonbons, gaining weight and not wanting to go anywhere, because it doesn't look like what I'm familiar with depression looking like based on my observation, sometimes I don't even know I'm depressed. And so I'm living out another form of depression, another act of depression in front of my children. And then my child becomes 7, 8, 9, and 10 and begin to have depressive behavior. And I'm saying, why? When you've had life all dealt out to you. And it's because she inherited my emotion. He inherited the spiritual nature of it because he or she watched me live in it. And so in order to correct those things, I first got to be willing to acknowledge those things. It's like when we used to do, I used to do counseling, ministry counseling. And one of the things that they did in training, they would tell you is that like people who've been abused, sometimes they don't want to actually verbalize the abuse because to verbalize it is to make it a reality. Long as it lives in my mind, I can continue to waver on, well, did it happen or did it not really happen? But the moment I put it in the atmosphere and I declare it, now I have to deal with it. And the reality is many of us love to think of ourselves at the great level and in the great form and not think of our weaknesses for fear that our weaknesses make us less of an individual. And I'm here to tell you this morning that what makes you a less of an individual or appear to be less of an individual is to not look in those dark, weak places and heal in those places, right? I'm going to use myself as an example. I used to struggle standing up for myself because I felt like it was wrong to stand up for myself. Well, Brian, where did you get the idea of that? Well, I came up in that generation where, you didn't talk back. And because I learned not to talk back as a kid to an adult, I became an adult, and so many ways that state of mind translated to how I stood up for myself among other people. And what was crazy about it was I am no longer a kid in that season of my life. I have become an adult and still don't see myself as an adult. And so therefore I'm tolerating and I'm condoning and I'm allowing things to happen that shouldn't. Well, why are you saying that today? Because now, in this season of my life, I'm having to untrain my children on things they learned by observing me. I'm having to teach my child that it's okay to stand up for yourself, but you don't have to holler in doing it. I'm having to teach my son, that somebody harming you or hurting you isn't okay if it really hurts you or affects you. Why are you saying that? Because they watch daddy consume and they watch daddy bottle and they watch daddy hold all these things in that they thought that that's the way that you handle those things. And so now because I've learned better, the way that I deliver them or I shift the season of that generation of the generation following me is I teach better.
Mm-hmm. I think another side to that is too, sometimes your parent just doesn't know because they haven't dug enough deep in themselves that they know this is a problem, that they know that it's something that they carry. It also gives you the human side to them. Yeah. It lets you know that, man, everybody is figuring out life one step at a time, one revelation at a time. So it give them grace. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Giving them grace and figuring it out. And then when you do feel, come to that age where you're like, hey, this hurt me here. And maybe we need to heal in this place together. But you have to be able to have grace for your parent as they figured out. Maybe they can't love from a place because they were never loved in that place. Yeah. Maybe they don't know how to apologize in that place because they never got to the apology in that place. Yeah. It's hard to stand in a place that you've never been. Yeah. Right? 100%. It's hard to give from a place that you've never been able to receive from. Yeah. So
let me ask you a question. And y'all can chime in on this one. You're just a part of the discussion at this point, right? But let me ask you a question. Do you process you?
Not all the time. Sometimes I process me, and when I process me, it's usually after the fact.
Yeah. And I asked that because I remember there was a season in my own life when I was scared to process me. Mm-hmm. because there were things that I would find out in the process of processing me
Mm-hmm.
that was intended to deliver me, but in the scheme of it would bound me, because I would make it personal, and I would process it from the emotional place that it didn't fix it or it didn't make me better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
so
I think
I was going to give you an example of me processing me and how it went. So we had a conversation. The first yoked night we had a conversation about, what word as a triggering word holding us in the place, right? And mine was stubbornness.
Mm-hmm.
And then that it came again when we were at church Sunday and we were talking to your parents, and your dad was like, persistence and stubbornness, they're two different things. Stubbornness can keep you in a place longer than you should because you're hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You could hurt yourself. And persistence is like knowing that, hey, this is unto the Lord, and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like in these last few days, I've learned that stubbornness is my flesh and persistence is my faith in God. And then after that conversation, I had another conversation with my old supervisor today. Mm-hmm. And she was talking to me about persistence. And I was like, okay. So that was what I mean when I say after the fact.
Yeah.
I didn't process myself until I had
more information.
A different perspective.
Yeah.
More knowledge, because I didn't just take what your dad said and just said, okay, that's the word. I hit what he said, and I was like, okay, line it up. And I said, okay, Lord, deal with me in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me some revelation in this. It wasn't like I'm openly having the conversation with it. I took it to God, but he openly brought it back to me.
Yeah. And depending on what God's revealing, sometimes determines how easy it is to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In the things where I want revelation, just speaking like even myself example, the things where I want revelation, they're received from me, by me, so much easier than when God is revealing me something I probably didn't ask for.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I didn't want the exposure in that area. And if I go a step further, I would say, oftentimes the mind forgets certain things with the intent to protect us.
Right.
But sometimes to process who I am and where I've been, I got to deal with the thoughts that I've allowed to be put away. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm saying that because I want y'all to know this is not notes. This is just us having a natural flow, right? But last week, God told me I needed to go on a fast. Mm-hmm. And I ignored it. Mm-hmm. Then it came up again, excuse me. It came up again Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I didn't ignore it like I did the weeks prior to it. Mm-hmm. But my processing it was a little different this time. Mm-hmm. So by Monday morning, I got up and I'm like, okay, God, I'm gonna just do it. Like I'm gonna just do it. And in doing it, there is so many things I didn't have to deal with because I wasn't processing it.
I had a question though. So this is what I was thinking, and maybe it is just what it is, or maybe not. I was like, Lord, sometimes, because we are one, mm-hmm. So your disobedience is my disobedience.
Yeah, I got you.
And I was like, as soon as you said we were doing this fast, you see how quickly my test stuff came?
Wait, it's so funny.
So because like your disobedience
so I'm glad
was holding back my IV iron.
So wait, I'm glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because now I can say it. Now we can kind of like put it out there, right? So the other day I was having a discussion and I felt like God was like me in my quiet time. Yeah. And God is like, so much is held up because you're not putting it in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, what do you mean? He says, so much is held up because you're not getting it in front of me. And so it made me think, just a thought, right?
Yeah.
That there are things that you haven't been praying for that you're stumbling into.
Yeah.
And that's in God's protection, right? Like what happened at my job was under the line of my covering.
Yeah.
Right? But there is a blessing above my cover that I can't get without quality time.
Yeah.
And so
and
God
without obedience.
Exactly. And so God says, but you need to understand, and I think that might be my brother on the call. If it is, then he is going to be able to second what I'm about to say to you. We were talking and I said, the problem here is that oftentimes we have embraced rituals and we have neglected relationship. And what I mean by that is ritualistically, I go to church. Ritualistically, I'm going to listen to some worship music. Ritualistically, I am going to watch somebody maybe on TV. But that does not affect my relationship. Time cultivates my relationship. Why you say that? Because I'm going to take you a step closer in this discussion. This was literally downloading as I was sitting here. Do you know that without relationship, worship music is just another song? Yeah. And so you listening to music, but ain't nothing in your life shifting. You listening to music and nothing within yourself is changing. And I'm like, God, what is wrong? And God is like, because you're not in the relationship part. You're doing this out of habit. What does that have to do with the curse side of this discussion or breaking the cycles? Is that the Bible literally says that some things come but by fasting and praying. And when you said what you said, it released me in a measure because I was just saying to myself, God, do you know that a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, your body don't start acting up till just before shoot day. Yeah. And God was like, do you see the pattern? Yeah. Because if you analyze it enough to see the pattern, you'd see the attack, right? And some of us have gotten so accustomed to being under attack that we have learned how to tolerate the enemy's warfare instead of fighting back. I know I'm going to live paycheck to paycheck. I rebuke that, but I'm just using it as an example. I know I'm going to live paycheck to paycheck. So I've accepted a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle when the reality, God hasn't called me to be paycheck to paycheck. The enemy is warring in one of the places that God wants to bring about release, right? Oh, well, I got allergy problems. I've always had allergy problems. Oh, well, I have gut problems. I've always had gut problems. Oh, I have health problems. I've always had health problems. And so I accept the fate of the
illness. You accept the illness that is a reflection of the sin or the disobedience.
Yes.
Because I haven't taken it to God and said, hey, you're the creator and the author of what's going on here. So I need to make sure that I'm listening to what you're saying about my diet instead of saying, oh, okay, well, I could take a pill for this. I could take a pill for that.
And so what we try to do is we try to medicate.
Yeah, self-medicate.
Yeah, which we're gonna fade to the next point, but the reality is because it makes me think of something. So in this season of us having to do things to be healthier, we understand that there are two things in the world. There's medication and then there's supplements, right? So a supplement is to come alongside of a lifestyle that you should already have. Medication is to strictly to medicate whatever the situation is. Well, what our faith should be is worship, prayer, quality time with God. All of those things are a supplement. It's a part of the journey of having my faith. It's not a medication. It's not something I go to God when I'm sick. It's a lifestyle that lives outside of sickness, right? And so I say that because I can't, again, going back to the root of the topic at the beginning is I can't truly fix what I won't acknowledge and take to Christ. Yeah. Because I got to give it to God because it's already proven itself to be more than me, right? If what was going on with you the last 3 or 4 months was something simple enough for us to fix, we would have fixed it by now. And let me go ahead and tell y'all, we tried everything, including eating liver. It's disgusting. Okay? Tried everything, including eating liver. Not a good experience for us. It's people out there who may like it, But it tastes like I was chewing on iron and licking copper. I'm just telling you right now. It was, and I tried everything. But the reality is that until I submit and surrender this thing to God, it sometimes has more of a hold on me than I have on it.
Yeah. And I think that too. That's why I was saying that, because, man, we've done so much. We've done so much. I mean, we've bought watches. I've drank so much water. I take iron. I literally have a bag of vitamins I take, and nothing was doing anything. And I mean, praying, and I'm going to God, praying and just trusting and getting burnt out. And then the minute you go on your fast, it's like, here's the letter. Here you're approved.
I mean, and I'm talking about in like 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I see a unmute. So you got something to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, sis, love you, man. Praying for you and your strength, man. But it's good to hear you, see you guys, man. Hello to the whole Yoke family, man. I know I don't have a name on here. I'm getting a little too old for that. But this is KT. I'm gonna learn how to work my phone after this, y'all, so y'all can know who I am. But I truly just wanted to share this with what you're talking about. Sis, you're absolutely right about being one. I watched some guy. And sometimes we take ministry, man, and we have no fear in God as a joke. And he was preaching about we can't be one because we're two different people. When we are married, we are totally one because we have made a covenant and a relationship and a promise with God. We made a vow with God, with ourselves that brought us into one, first of all.
Yeah.
And so, and we can't change God's word. And a lot of times, I think a lot of people get caught up in trying to preach or teach or even read God's word to make it benefit their storm, their life, their situations, their circumstances. And then to try to say, oh, man, it is good. But I'm telling you, God loves each and every one of us. The word says he raised on the just and the unjust. We can't understand that. I don't understand that sometimes because I be really wanting to rain on people and with my fist. But I God, and that's what makes me understand that I am not God, because God loves everyone despite of who we are, because we all fall short. And he says he can't find nothing good in our heart until we begin to change for him, so that he could pull things out and work things in us. But what happens in life, like what you said, when we go on this fast and things happen, I asked the people at church Sunday, when I was talking about Noah, I said, oh, man, have any of y'all ever just rode out a storm? Have y'all just rode out Rita, Katrina? Have y'all just sat down and just rode out a storm in your life, the last tornado, the last hurricane? And a lot of people have rode out storms. We have rode out a lot of storms in our lives. But that's the problem. We get so comfortable with storms in our lives that even when we go on a fast, even when we say it's time to give up, it's time to get on this boat like Noah, instead of listening to all of God's directions, we have an ark. But after that ark, then we have to still be obedient and get on there and do everything that God is telling us to do when we get on there. And when we get on there, we can't pick and choose when it's time to get out of there.
Yes.
He has opened the door in our lives for us to get out of that ark. But when we run into a storm, we pick and choose when we can take it and when we can't take it. And because we have been so comfortable with storms, when we hear the storms, we go back to our old ways. And instead of embracing it, instead of understanding it, saying, man, even though I open up this patio to let this raven out like Noah did, it's still not time to get out this storm. And even though I open up this door and let this dove out, it's still not time to get out this storm. We have to continue to understand, man, I am tired. I am frustrated. I am losing a little bit of patience, man. My endurance is running low, but that don't mean I still supposed to give up. I have to continue to keep going through this storm so I won't keep doing the same patterns. I love God and then I give up. I love God and then I let loose the raven. I love God and then I walk out of the boat. I have to stay in this boat and only come out when God tells me. I have to embrace this storm in this season that I'm in. But if I walk in it with enough faith and understand that it's not about me but the kingdom, eventually God is going to open up that door. And when he open it up, he say, be fruitful and multiply. And it's our job to build an altar, man, and change what he's taken off of us and put the new things that he want in us.
It's fun. I'm glad you used that
be
that Noah, because
No, I'm glad he used be fruitful and multiply because it means more than just having babies.
Yes.
It means like be fruitful in this season of what I've given you and multiply it.
Yes.
It means like what I'm going through personally myself, I have to be able to see the end, right? Endure to the end, and then learn from it, and then multiply it with everyone else that is going through it in their season.
Yes.
And give them cheer, give them hope, encouragement, and let them know that, hey, you're not I've been through it, and the storm is thick. Like I'm not kidding you. This storm has been a storm, like of all the unknown, you know, and being able to come along somebody else and encourage them and help them to get through the storm, because I have to be fruitful in that and multiply it. And even the hard things in life, you know what I'm saying, that you've gotten over and come through, you have to be fruitful and multiply.
And I think the other thing that I liked about him using that particular scripture and particular story is also this, is Noah's obedience created security for other people. Had Noah been disobedient, there wouldn't have been an ark. I'm not saying that God couldn't have used anybody else, but based on what we have, had Noah been disobedient, there could have very well not been an ark, right? And so understanding in that, it makes me think the things that we have to sacrifice to make sure that another generation or another individual doesn't have to experience that thing. Like to really reflect and think about the years of my life, and then say, I can tell you there are so many places I can say to myself, I'm going to make it at the lowest level. There are so many things I don't want my children to have to experience because I know what that experience felt like, right? Now going beyond just my children, and let's talk about my relationships. There are so many people I'm in relationship with that I don't want them to have to endure certain things that I've endured, right? And so in order to make sure that that's the case, there are times when I have to be willing to share the story. I have to be willing to release the experience. I have to be willing to share the information to break the cycle. I can't break the cycle if I'm not willing to release the information. And the truth of the matter is, the enemy makes some of us so ashamed of where we've been that we won't tell somebody who we're watching experience and be exposed to the same thing, but we won't say anything because I'm so worried you're going to judge me because I've been there. Right. Like, it's like, we hear all these people talk about the addiction of pornography, right? But then you have people who know what the experience is like and then still won't talk about it. I'm so ashamed that I did it. Yeah, but in your accepting of the shame, you are binding somebody else not to be free. Because I can tell you, not only have I did it, but I was delivered from it. And I can tell you how I was delivered. I created accountability. I created systems that kept it in play. And let me go ahead and tell you, don't let the enemy deceive you, because the enemy will make you think watching pornography is an easier switch or an easier shift. It's not as guilty as going out and actually having intimate sexual shame. And so what you discover you will do is the enemy will trick your mind and manipulate your thoughts. And there's no one there to correct the manipulation. There's no one there to correct the thought, because God gave you the experience and God gave you the words, but we kept it to ourselves because I'm ashamed of where I've been. Shame will have you. Yes, it will. Shame will definitely have you in a chokehold. The truth of the matter is, and I'm pretty sure she can say the same thing I'm going to say, is this: it's the enemy's greatest tactic to silence the testimony of the believer, is to make you ashamed of what you've been through. And you know what's crazy? Some of the stuff that the enemy makes you ashamed of sharing wasn't even your fault. But the reality is as long as I can keep shame in the mix, I forfeit the ability for deliverance to happen with somebody else. And so you was in an abusive relationship and he or she was verbally abusing you, physically assaulting you, and then you so ashamed of where you've been that you see all the signs and the signals in somebody else's life, but you can't speak to them because you still ashamed of the fact that I allowed somebody to treat me like that I allowed somebody to manipulate me like that I allowed somebody to do me like that. And in the course of it, the cycle just continues to repeat itself, because somebody has to stand up and say, I have had enough of this cycle running rampant, and I'm going to put an end to it. Mm-hmm. You know, we talk a lot about legacy, right? I'm talking about like culturally on the internet. We name ministries after legacies. We name schools after, like, you know, with legacy in the names. We create businesses. We talk about legacy a lot, but most of the time when we're talking about legacy, we're only talking about the earthly, physical things that benefit from the term legacy, leaving generational wealth, creating businesses and income. But what we don't talk about is what type of character did your generation inherit from you? Yeah. What is the legacy of who you were as a person? Right? And don't get me wrong, we all sitting on this call can testify that we have had to fight to obtain and then to maintain the character that God has allowed us to have today. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's people on this call. My brother was just saying a few minutes ago, I don't know if he shared, I think he said this, but the reality is the shift from being the one who fights with his fists to the one who fight with his prayers, that's a change. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's maturity.
That's growth. That's seeing the warfare for where it actually takes place. Mm-hmm. And it's not in how we fight with our hands, it's how we fight with our faith. Well, the question you have to ask yourself is the fight to, not the question, but the statement you have to make to yourself is the fight to resist being the old me and accepting this new me. Not only does it come at a cost, but it creates a lesson. Yeah. Right? Not only did it cost me something, but so many people get to learn from it. I've heard so many stories and witnessed so many testimonies of people whose lives were changed when they saw the life of a person who used to do the same stuff they was doing because they was doing it together, watch them decide to not do it no more. And in your mind, you're like, well, if he cannot do it and he done found something wrong with it, I can stop doing it too. And so the cycle begins to break when don't get me wrong, we are not the bar. We are not the bar for Christianity, but we are the mirror. And as long as I continue to reflect the transformational power of Christ and my relationship with him, I afford the ability to see the lives of people who everybody else counted out, who everyone else gave up on. I get to watch their lives shift because they saw God change me.
Yeah. And also continue to change. You know what I'm saying? Don't get so complacent and say, oh, well, I got baptized when I was 13 and I read the Bible from front to back, and so I know the word. But as I've grown older, I think I've felt the word a little differently. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can go back in and read it and be like, oh, I didn't see that time. Because it didn't have, that wasn't where my maturity was, and that wasn't where my experience lied. When I was 13, I read the Bible like a 13-year-old.
Yes.
When I'm 40, I definitely read it a little differently.
Yeah,
and a lot slower.
We was just talking about not just that, but my understanding of it is a lot more mature.
Like, it's a lot different.
Yeah, 100%.
And as a mom, my understanding of the Bible has become a lot different. Yeah. I'm pretty sure as I become a grandparent, you know, my understanding will become a lot different. I pray a lot more as my children have gotten older. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not like they're not in front of me, so I don't see them every day. So there are certain prayers I didn't pray because I seen them every day, and I know they were coming home. Now there are different prayers that I say that because they don't come home to me. They go to their own homes, and they have their own individual lives. And I believe I have become okay with the changing self, changing of myself. And then when they come back and say, Mom, you did this completely wrong, you failed here. And I'm like, well, I apologize, but I can't go back and redo it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. I gave you the best that I had.
At the moment.
Yep. I gave you all that I could when I was that age. When I was a child, I thought as a child and parented as a child. And if I did it at 40, I would definitely do it differently. But This is where we're at.
This is where we are.
And
I only understand it because I did it that way.
Yeah.
And I saw the fruit of that way.
The fruit of it that way.
I want to read Deuteronomy 6:5-7 says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength." Heart, soul, strength, all of it. "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up." Meaning, the shift is in the details.
Yeah.
It's in the consistency of the details. I was having a conversation this morning, and it makes me think about it relative to this. I was having a conversation with a potential customer this morning, a client this morning, and we were talking about how finding your social rhythm and then being consistent once you understand it. That principle is also applied to your faith. When you find your faith rhythm, be consistent, right? If fasting draws you near to him, why would you stop fasting? Right? If having a specific time to pray draws you near to him, be consistent. Why are you saying that? Because this one gonna hurt. Because that also means when it comes to how we raise our children or how we pour into the people God has assigned to us, we got to be consistent. I can't tell you that life and death is in the power of your tongue, and then you find me using my tongue to create slander and abuse.
Yeah.
Because that whole saying, and I don't know how old my crew is on call, but our parents, people used to say, I know my parents, my dad has said this before, is don't do as I do as I say. But the reality is most of us don't do what you say, we do what you do, because most times you doing what you do more than you doing what you say.
Yep.
Right? And so before you know it, I become a product of the example you left me and not the words you spoke to me. And so again, be very consistent in how you approach your faith, even in front of the people God has assigned you to, right? I am very cautious on being sure that when it comes to how I handle and how I approach my dynamics, that I'm true to my assignment. Doesn't mean I'm gonna get it right every time. But I gotta try to stay as consistent and as true to my assignment and the consistency of how God has told me to operate in it every time. And here's the kicker. Y'all gonna here is the one of the problems is sometimes it's hard to be consistent when the results aren't happening as fast as you think they should.
Yeah.
You question what it is you're doing instead of questioning the consistency to continue doing it, right? We started this thing, we were meeting in small little cells of a group, and God say, stick with it, right? And then from there, it was like, okay, God, what do we talk about? And God started dropping subjects, and he says, stick with it. It's like today, we got up this morning, my wife was not feeling well. Now, y'all might not be able to tell that from the call, but my wife wasn't feeling well. And so I was like, babe, if you need to stay, I understand. But everything in her face was saying, I need to be consistent. I need to, we have pledged, God, rain, sleet, hell, or snow. I don't care if we get a snow in and we got to put our phones up on top of tables. We have got to be consistent to this assignment because this is the assignment that we have in the season. You know what I'm saying? And so understanding that, the question I ask you, because you're hearing it from our personal place, but now my question I ask you is, can you honestly say that you are consistent with the assignment God has given you, that if you stuck it through, you could see the result God promised you, even if the result isn't showing itself to be present right now?
You know what? Because, okay, that's my personal experience. That's heavy for me because even in this, like, I had my second appointment, third appointment, maybe, with hematology. And before I had the phone call appointment, I had to take my blood work. And then I had the phone call. No, the phone call appointment came first. Then I had to leave from that and go get my blood work done. And man, I was hyping myself up. I was like, "Oh, I'm taking all these vitamins." I mean, I had the whole shebang, right? And I was faithful, right? Faithful. And some of them I was doing like 2 times a day because I knew I needed it. When I got that blood work back, it was like a slap in the face because everything that at the bar was already low that I started at, right? We already knew I had a problem. So the bar was already low that I started at, and it was lower. And I was like, look, I thought I had been doing everything I was supposed to do. And then when I got on the call with the hematologist, I'm showing her everything I take. She was like, oh, those are good. Oh, those are good. Oh, that's great. Well, why is everything still plummeting? Like, what the heck? I thought I was doing what I'm supposed to do. And literally for the next 2 days, it's very important who you tell that to.
Facts.
It's very important who you show when your faith is wavering to. Because I took it to my husband, and he was just like, I mean, I'm literally crying. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm literally crying like this. I can't believe I'm here, and I've been doing what I'm supposed to do. And he was like, look, it's okay, but you're gonna keep taking that iron and those tablets and everything else. You're gonna keep doing it because you may not see it right now, but it's coming. And then until you get to this next phase, which thank God I'll be at next week, we're going to still do it. And I did it. Mad, crying, with you handing me stuff. I did it. Mad.
And can I say something?
Yeah.
It's okay sometimes to be obedient and do it mad.
Yeah.
What do you mean? The Bible says don't do it grudgingly or necessity. I understand what you're saying. But the first couple of times you do it, you might not like it. But you got to grow in it.
Yeah.
Obedience is not going to always feel good. And I think sometimes the requirement is there, right? But there are places where we are in our lives, and God knows where you are, and God's trying to shift you to the requirement. What does that mean? Well, the first time they told me I had to give up sugar and donuts and juice, I did it because I knew it was for my good. I wasn't disgruntled, but I still wanted donuts.
Yeah.
And it didn't make it no better that the people around me wanted the obedience is ghetto, 100%. Because it requires me to deny my desires, right? And it's even harder when the results aren't there. It's easy to be obedient when you see in the fruit.
Like,
but what happens when the first couple of months of doing it, there's no fruit?
Yeah, I wanted that instant gratification. But I had to learn it's like a plane. You know how a plane has to like take off and it's like, but my plane was like this. It was like, we're going in a direction, but we haven't got there. We haven't got to the takeoff point yet.
Faith is a long game, not a short game. It's a long game because, again, my obstacles and my situations grow my faith. They elevate it, right? And here's, without giving too much detail, but piggybacking off of your statement, sometimes the discouragement is because I'm doing this thing and I know it should be producing this result, but I'm not taking into account the attack that's happening over here. Yeah. And so I got to keep at it while God fix this.
Yeah.
And so I say that because in the spiritual sense, as we traverse the cycles, as we break the generational cycles, I don't know who this is for, but there is a child or a person or a situation you praying about. You need to understand that just because you were being obedient don't mean God gonna fix it right there. Yeah. It still has to sometimes see the trial and the tribulation all the way through because it's elevating your faith. But in order to see that elevation, God says you have to endure this season. I know you begging me to deliver you from it. I know you begging me to get you out of it. But the reality of the matter is to get you to where I'm trying to get you to be, you have got to endure this thing. this experience and this exposure will show you all of who you are and every bit of who you not. And the sweet space in between is going to show you every bit of who I am. Yeah. And so the reality is I have got to allow this season to permit so that you can see me.
Yeah.
Right? And I kid you not, like even with the stuff we're doing right now, there are so many days that I have to remember this belongs to God and doesn't belong to me. So on days when I want to quit, on seasons when I want a vacation, on days when I'm like, okay, God, I've been doing this for 20 years or 15 years or 30 years. And God, I'm ready for to land the plane. God is saying no, because the assignment is not being completed. And so you got to stay at it. You got to see it through. You got to stick it out. And again, to break habits, to break curses, you got to introduce new things. And the truth of the matter is, for a while you're working said new thing, it might not taste good. It might not feel good.
Liver.
But the result will be for your better, right? No, I got even better than that. Peas. I hate peas.
Are great.
Now I can eat them. But when peas first came into the equation, I hated peas. But my wife had to remind me, you need to eat vegetables. You need some green fruit vegetables. You need some fruit. You need these things in your life, right? And so the first while of introducing them into my life was hard. Now, if I don't have them, I miss them. Like, man, I sure could use some mixed vegetables. Man, I sure could use some grapefruit. And, when I was a kid, grapefruit tasted like trash. I don't know if it's this mature palate that I got now, but grapefruit is a very sophisticated fruit. If you peel the skin off of it.
Delicious.
You know what I'm saying? And so I say that because, again, the enemy wants to deceive you. Yeah. It's people sitting on this call. God is saying, you are so close to what you asking me for, but I need consistency and I need endurance.
Yeah.
You're not going to break the cycle without consistency and endurance.
He wants you to quit. And it's going to throw up some valid reasons to quit, but you have to have faith that I'm going to keep pushing.
And let me say this. I kid you not. There is a song that we all love to sing. Tasha Cobbs has a song, Break Every Chain.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to do Gracefully Broken.
I like that song, too. but Break Every Chain, right? Yeah. But you realize that some of you are chain breakers on a chain breaker assignment. And God is saying, in order to break the chain, there's got to be tension. There's got to be pull. But most of all, hear me, you will not do it in your own strength. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with you at the same time.
Yeah.
And so God says, you need to understand you are the one who gets to decide if the cycle ends with you. So think about it just for a moment. Really ask yourself, are there things that you've experienced that you want your children? Because I know I got parents on here. You want your children to experience the level of poverty you experienced? Do you want your children to experience the level of abuse? I kid you not. I know you don't, because you take parents who have been physically abused, and the key their key focus purpose in life is to protect their children from ever suffering at the hands of that level of abuse. Why are you saying that? Because if you will fight a physical abuser to protect your child, help me understand why you will not war and wrestle with the enemy to break curses, to break strongholds, and to break chains on your children's lives, right? If I'm willing to say that if a robber breaks into my house, I am the first on call, then why, when the enemy begins to attack your children, you weaponize the assault by confessing things over their lives, speaking things over their situation that completely contradicts what it is you want and what it is God has already declared to you would have?
Because some people don't see that as a robber.
Because exactly.
They don't see it as a robber.
No.
But you have to be able to see it for what that's a robber. That is somebody that has come into your house to try to destroy it. That is somebody that's come into your marriage to try to destroy it. That is somebody that's come into your body to try to destroy it. That's a robber. That robs you.
And the warfare is necessary.
Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you something. Listen. How the boy say, listen, Linda, listen. If the enemy sees you as an easy attack, anytime you get something, thank you, Holy Spirit, anytime you get something, he gonna come get it.
Yeah.
Because you an easy target. that's the equivalent of when bullies pick on certain kids. They pick on kids that they know ain't gonna ever put up a fight, right?
Or that the fight is minimal.
Or the fight is minimal, exactly. But if he knew every time he came to get your lunch, like
he gonna get them paws.
Yeah, you hear me? By the time he get to eat that sandwich, his lip gonna be so swollen, not gonna be so beat up, he not gonna want it. If the enemy understood that every time he set foot on your doorstep, that you handled the spiritual authority in your house at the same level that you handled the natural authority. What do you mean, Pastor? Listen, if somebody came to my house and told me they was going to come in my house and shoot up my family, the minute they step on the grass, it's on sight. Right? It's on sight. My wife gonna be mad because I'm gonna go get that pistol that she don't like being in the house, and it's gonna be a war zone. What do you mean? Listen, you need to get that oil, you need to get that Bible, you need to get that word, and you need to go to war. The enemy can't have your children. The enemy can't have your marriage. The enemy can't have your mindset. The enemy can't have your job. The enemy can't have your purpose. Like, you have got to listen. At some point, the enemy got to take something from you that you love enough and you care about enough to fight back. Why are you saying that, Reverend? Because you need to understand, to break the cycles, it's going to require a fight.
Yeah. Most of y'all want to fight if somebody cut you off in traffic.
I'm being delivered from that. I don't want to fight, but I do want to roll my eyes.
Stare them down, roll your eyes, and look at them crazy. Most of y'all get ready to fight because somebody disrespected you. But them things are minimal compared to what we fighting for.
And so, understand. Listen, we're going to start wrapping it up with this one. Listen. When I first graduated high school, I wanted to be an architect. And but to get into architecture, I had to go into interior design, which I fell in love with, colors and patterns and shapes. And one of the things that both architects, builders, and interior designs work off of is a blueprint. The blueprint shows you what's supposed to be there, right? But what's beautiful about a blueprint is that you can buy a blueprint, get it prepared, and then discover it don't fit for where I want to build.
Yeah.
So then you take that blueprint and you modify it. You make the necessary changes to accommodate the need. Why are you saying that, Reverend? Because you need to understand that God is calling you to download the blue. You don't even have to write it.
Yeah.
You just got to go to the master architect, which is the Father, and say, God, what is your desire for this family? What is your desire for this ministry, for this business? Whatever the assignment is on your life, God, what is the desire? And allow God to give you what the download is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and help you. I want you to know, sometimes when you have vision, but you can't see, I know that sounds bad, but when you have vision, but you can't see, you can look at the blueprint and it don't make sense till you begin to see the walls go up. So trust God's process until you begin to see the framework. Then you can then say, okay, God, I get it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I see. I couldn't see it when it was laid out on a piece of paper. I couldn't see it when you was giving me bits and pieces of it in my dreams. I couldn't see it when I was driving to and from work and you was casting vision. I couldn't see it when I was overlooked at this job and I was undervalued at this job. God, I didn't see it. But the reality God is saying is if you just endure and trust my process, the result of what it is you will get is greater than what you even anticipated you would have. But I need you to be submitted. And I need you to be consistent and endure. Guys, I didn't even realize we have definitely went over the 8 o'clock mark. But I want to share something with you all today before we blueprint versus legacy. Yes. I want to leave something with you all before we wrap up today. June 21st is our next event. I want to tell y'all something. I want you to see God in this. I want to show y'all God in this. So 2 weeks ago, I created the Eventbrite for the event, but we hadn't even started sharing it. We had 4 people register for the event, and we hadn't even shared it with anybody. These were people who saw the event from within the Eventbrite and jumped on and signed up. Why are you saying? Because the more I'm having these discussions out in public, just talking to people, more and more people are saying, I want to see that. I need something like that in my life. So I invite you, not only sign up, but share and invite somebody who you might not be able to get them here on a Tuesday night, but they would love to come hang out and just eat and chill, because the vibe is definitely going to be there, okay? The conversations, I'm telling you, they're going to be there. We love what the first one did, but we learned so much from it that we even have a mindset of where we're going and know what to do to become even better. So be praying for us, but also sign up. Matter of fact, Bay, if you can, drop the link in the chat while everyone's still on. So if you want to, you can sign up now. I am going to, it's free. I'm pretty sure y'all all know that because we've done this before, but just a heads up, it's free. So I'm going to pray a prayer to dismiss.